They've given us a stick to beat the world. Solid nitroglycerin.
Even in his own lifetime, Alfred Nobel was known as the Merchant of Death.
Farewell to the Merchant of Death. My obituary. When my brother Ludwig died and the newspapers assumed it was me.
I always thought it a little morbid, sir. I mean, to keep it on the wall like that. If you'll excuse my saying so, Monsieur Nobel.
On the contrary. I think it's a singular privilege knowing how the world will remember you. Who will mourn for Alfred Nobel? Only the warmongers whose arsenals he stocked, the bankers whose accounts he fattened with his tools of destruction. No tears will be shed for the Merchant of Death. The summation of the life's work, Henri, noble intentions, charitable deeds, scientific discoveries, all adding to the sum total of human knowledge, obliterated in one paragraph.
The crude description, invented by a newspaper, was to haunt Nobel throughout his amazing life. In the end, embittered and frustrated, he reversed his reputation and left a priceless legacy to the world. In 1891, sick and prematurely aged, he packed up his luxury home in Paris forever and moved to Italy.
You will miss this fine house, Monsieur Nobel, and the Avenue Malakoff.
I'm finished with France. The French are with me. They accuse me of espionage, threaten me with prison, close my factories, even confiscate my explosives. I hope San Remo will bring me peace of mind.
20 years in this house. Do you remember the advertisement you asked me to place for a young woman companion?
Secretary. She was never more than that.
Countess Kinsky was running away from a sad love affair when she met Nobel. She was glad to come to work for the wealthy scientist.
And my last position was as governess to the daughters of the Baroness von Suttner. I also, as I mentioned in my letter, speak 5 languages.
And you are unattached, as you mentioned in your letter?
My engagement was broken off rather suddenly.
Excellent. The 5 languages.
Electricity? In the carriage?
Inside and out.
Extraordinary.
Oh, one of my inventions. Accumulators. Now, just, you'll not miss Vienna, Countess Kinsky. Paris offers a multitude of diversions.
But you haven't fully explained to me the nature of my duties.
You will protect me from the frivolities of social life, which I have neither the time nor the desire to engage in.
And my hours?
Well, less erratic than mine. Sometimes in my laboratory all night, when the devil doesn't send his regards. Angina. You will, of course, answer all correspondence and deal most of all with the charities. I contribute heavily to widows and orphans.
So many requests for donations.
You seem to think I invented money, too. Come in.
The eggs, sir. And Monsieur Barbet.
Good news, Alfred. First, try this egg ball. And a gold louis, you can guess its age. You too, Bertha. It's hard-boiled.
Oh. You didn't pickle it in formaldehyde, did you?
As fresh as God made it 3 weeks ago.
Accumulators, Mr. Nobel.
An apparatus that absorbs the heat from food and preserves it. Refrigeration. Not all my inventions explode, you see.
Only the more lucrative ones. The government's finally granted us a license to produce dynamite at the Paul factory. Well, this gives us a worldwide monopoly in the manufacture of explosives. Yes. Well, I think I'll enter politics. Yes, my name's already been mentioned as a Minister of Agriculture in the next cabinet.
What sort of bedfellows will politics bring us, Paul?
The sort that hands out government contracts. This is a businessman's government, Alfred. Do you realize that if war is declared anywhere in the world, Nobel enterprises will reap the profits?
Congratulations, Mr. Nobel, on your contribution to the war effort.
War is man's natural condition, Bertha, not my invention.
Nobel dynamite offers murder by mass production.
It will also dig a canal in Egypt, blast a tunnel through the Alps, and explode gold out of the California hills.
What is all that worth? One human life?
Paul, it seems I've hired a pacifist.
The old Sacker, of course.
No. No, I rather think I might offer her a more permanent position.
Yes, well, that's your problem. Mine is tomorrow's meeting of the Board of Directors. Look, what I'd like you to say...
I won't be there. I'm going to Stockholm for my mother's birthday.
No, surely you can miss that. Just this one.
You didn't miss mine.
There's no possibility of being outrageous.
Take it down the boat.
I cannot afford you very much money in something...
What the problem is?
I will not have arguments. Oh, it's be a happy occasion.
Who's arguing, Mother? I'm telling facts. Alfred locks himself in a lab obsessed by his explosions. And he won't even consider this opportunity for me. I've seen what can be done in Baku. Black rivers gushing from the earth. So much of it not even a blade of grass can grow.
Oil.
Yes, oil and naphtha. Just waiting to be transported down the Volga.
All that's needed is you, Alfred.
My money.
Why not your money?
We can pick up the lease from the Russian government for a song. Of course, we'd have to build a railroad.
Robert's never had any luck, Alfred. This time it's his turn. With an investment from you of 2 million francs.
3. What? You don't want a railroad. A pipeline. More efficient. Here. From Balakani to Baku Harbor. And we'll need a refinery and a village for the workers.
You're in with us.
Let's call it a wedding present to myself.
Alfred. What a sphinx you are.
Did someone say wedding? Who is she?
Countess Kinsky.
Countess?
Woman of great intellect. I know she likes me. She heartily disapproves of me.
Oh, no one could say no to you, Alfred. If only your father were alive. And your dear brother Oscar to share such happiness.
Put this with my personal effects only.
It's a pity you never married her, sir. Someone to share your success?
I shouldn't have wished my life on any woman, dragging myself from factory to factory around the world, and from doctor to doctor to keep my heart ticking.
Oh, your father's medal, sir. Where would you like that?
The Letterstedt medal was mine. It was always mine.
Put it in my dispatch case, sir. I'd like to keep it with me.
I understand, sir.
Nobody does.
Throughout his life, Nobel's outlook was warped and tormented by the bitter antagonism and rivalry that poisoned his relationship with his father, Emanuel. And his father's latest inventions, intended for the Swedish army, were proving to be a total failure.
Mr. Nobel, your chloride of potassium mixture has failed to burst a single shell.
Only a few more weeks, General, and then I can assure you
You've had ample time and funds.
that success is almost within our grasp.
I think the army shall try shopping in Prussia, where they produce what they promise.
General Tuttleband, look.
The new formula, General, based on the new Nobel principle. It'll revolutionize explosives.
I hope you live to prove it. Seems far too dangerous for the army. No more money. Good day, gentlemen.
All right, it's temperamental, General, but it can be tamed.
I saw what you put in that shell case, Alfred. 50% nitroglycerine. You could have blown us all to doomsday. And how dare you tell the General we got a new principle?
But I have one, Father. I've been trying to tell you for weeks, but you wouldn't listen. I call it the principle of primary charge.
Primary charge?
A small amount of one substance will ignite a larger amount of another.
Behind his father's back, Alfred Nobel had been working secretly for months, helped in his experiments by his younger brother Oscar. They took absurd risks to explore this principle of primary charge.
20 and not one failure, Alfred.
Sealing wax is the trick. Nobel's patent detonator. Using my principle of primary charge, a small amount of one substance ignites a large amount of another. Father won't laugh this off.
Yes, and you can apply for a patent in Sweden.
Sweden. France. England. Germany.
But with success came tragedy, and young Oscar was killed in a fearful explosion.
It was Alfred's fault. All Alfred's fault. Conceited fool, always thinks he knows everything. Let him sign his great contract in Stockholm, buy his factories. I'll have nothing more to do with him.
Oh, my poor Oscar. So young.
Alfred was tormented by the death of his younger brother, and he became obsessed by the lethal characteristics of his new invention. In 1866, with Nobel factories producing high explosives for shipment to every corner of the globe, he appointed Paul Barbet to manage the growing empire.
Nobel nitroglycerine leads the world in high explosives. Congratulate yourself, Alfred.
I can't forget the disasters, Paul. I wear them like a hair shirt, and I can't promise there won't be more. In fact, I can guarantee there will be.
Well, people will just have to learn to live with them.
Or die with them. Every headline tells of another disaster. New York, August the 10th, 1865. Nitroglycerin explosion in hotel. 18 injured. Bremerhaven, December the 15th. The steamer Moselle explodes. 200 injured. 28 dead. And in Panama, the worst explosion in history. 47 dead. Wounded and missing, unknown.
Carelessness, Alfred, carelessness. It was stored in the hold of the steamer. They didn't even bother to lash it down.
Lash it down, then? Bump it about on their wagons, polish their boots with it, oil their wagon wheels with it. I wonder they don't fill their lamps with it.
They're supposed to label it explosives. What's our responsibility?
Half the time they don't even bother to label it at all, Mr. Barbet.
You've got to find a way of making that glycerin solid, safe to handle. What? What? I've mixed that damned oil with gum, cotton, paper, powder, silica, paper, pulp, wood waste, brick dust, coal, dried clay, gypsum, even wood alcohol. The only thing I haven't mixed it with is my coffee.
You're killing yourself, Alfred. You've been to bed for 3 nights.
It's been here all the time. Right in front of us.
What has?
Peaceful gore.
You mean diatomite? The stuff we used to pack the case in?
That's exactly what I mean.
Diatomite?
The humble miracle formed by millions of microscopic fossils. It's dirt cheap and there's miles of it. Do you know what these little microorganisms have done for us? They've given us a stick to beat the world. Solid nitroglycerin. No more accidents, no more lawsuits, no more deaths. I think I'd call it dynamite.
In 1876, after one of his many illnesses, Nobel visited a health resort in Austria to take the cure. He found a cure he hadn't bargained for.
Pink for affection, red for intimacy, purple for passion, blue for truth, and white for respect, like if you had a wife?
No. No wife.
Well, that's the language of flowers. And then there's yellow, which is an invitation to romance.
Well, since they're for my luncheon hostess, perhaps a little affection mingled with respect.
Will you be staying in Baden long, sir?
Well, I really don't know.
There's some beautiful drives through the forest, if one knows them.
And I imagine you do.
Oh, yes, indeed. Mamma says we should always show foreigners the beauties of our country.
You already have.
I'm free at 4. My name's Sophie. Sophie Hess. And yours?
Alfred Nobel. And as it happens, I'm also free. At 4.
An invitation. Oh, I think I'll wear them all to bed tonight.
My sweet little troll, there are quite a few inches of you still unadorned. You haven't read these books I sent you?
Voltaire. Mama says if it's a mind you want, you don't need a girl who looks like me.
Everything fades but the works of the mind. Somebody else said that to me once.
Everything fades but the works of the mind. The dream and the conscience are all that remain of us.
Bertha, don't leave me.
Make it more difficult for me, Alfred. You know how fond I am of you. I'm in love with someone else, and he's asked me to marry him.
Who is he?
Arthur von Suttner.
Bertha, I need you. Please.
Alfred! Alfred!
What?
You haven't heard a word I've said.
I'm sorry.
I was telling you that in the Louvre, they've got a diamond that's bigger than a crow's egg. Can you imagine? The regent of France, who bought it for his mistress, wasn't half as rich as you are, because your money comes from every country in the world.
14 years later, the Nobel empire was shattered by speculation and scandal. In 1890, the man who had managed Nobel's business affairs so efficiently, Paul Barbey, confronted his longtime friend and partner.
Barbey, you have the conscience of an India rubber ball. You've involved the company in large-scale speculative purchases of glycerin that have brought us to the verge of bankruptcy. A gamble and I lost. Gamble that opened the door to international scandal. Mind you, blasting gelatin should be digging a canal across the Isthmus of Panama. Instead, we're accused of everything from bribery to espionage.
It wasn't my fault alone, Alfred. Ministers, senators, deputies, even the chief of police, all took bribes. They never paid much.
You pocketed 550,000 francs from a certain banker who's just killed himself. What in God's name made me trust you?
Your desire to be free of business for your inventions and your absurd idealism. While your products have been blowing up half the earth in wars, your cash registers have been ringing up billions. I haven't noticed the tears in your eyes.
To save the trust, I'm dismissing you, Paul, and all the directors, even the innocent ones. It'll cost me over 5 million francs, but I'm buying up every share of Nobel stock that was dumped on the market. At least embezzler will not be added to the list of names I'm being called.
Time had changed Sophie, too, and not for the better.
If you were so worried about scandal, you could have married me years ago instead of hiding me like dust under the carpet.
Please, not another row tonight. More do you want from me? I've offered you every opportunity for self-improvement. And since you refuse to grow anything but older, there's really no more I can do.
What's going to happen to me and the baby?
Will the father marry you?
Mamma says his regiment will insist on it. After all, he's a cavalry captain.
Then you have no problem.
But what about money? He's poor.
You have to give up some of your extravagant habits, won't you?
Mamma says you'll take care of us. After all, you did tell me to look for a husband.
I didn't tell you to have a child in your arms at the ceremony. Yes, Sophie, of course I'll take care of you and your husband. I can take care of everyone and myself.
In 1891, Juliette Adam's salon was the meeting place for authors, artists, and politicians. Here, Bertha, Nobel's one-time secretary, now Baroness von Suttner, was received.
I was fascinated by your latest book. Such a vivid picture of the Caucasus. Have you read it, General Boulanger?
The pursuit of war, Baroness, deprives me of the opportunity to read.
The General has offered to lead our armies to Berlin and bring back Bismarck in chains.
Then you expect war, General?
Oh, I demand it, Madame, a war of vengeance.
Vengeance? 19 years later, the Franco-Prussian War should be forgotten. When will it all end?
In victory, Baroness, thanks to Alfred Nobel.
Bertha.
How good to see you again, Alfred.
Mr. Nobel, your latest invention, this new smokeless powder.
Ballastine.
Ingenious, sir. But don't try to peddle it to this charming lady. She'd soon have you and me in the breadline.
My husband and I were introduced to the glory of war as volunteers in a Russian field.
I salute your courage, Madame.
No. Rather salute the dismembered legs and arms. The maimed, the blind, the mad, the dead. Wasted by the sport of generals.
Excuse me.
You're more explosive than my inventions.
Couldn't you find a more constructive use for your genius, Alfred?
One day I shall produce a substance for destruction of such force that wars will become impossible.
And if you succeed, will you produce a new society or merely bring a violent end to the old one? Why not something to improve the quality of life? Biology, medicine.
Yes, there are other fields that beckon. Bertha, I'm planning to move to San Remo. Perhaps under the benign Italian sun, I'll find a new path.
Alfred, I've been helping to organize a World Peace Conference. The fourth annual meeting is in Bern next month. Will you come?
An armaments maker among the doves of peace. I'd scarcely aid your cause, my dear.
On the contrary, you'd be a symbol of conversion.
Perhaps there is a way. A bequest to mankind from Alfred Nobel. I trust you've put in sufficient writing paper, Henri?
Oh, yes, sir. I know you always like to draft letters in your family.
No, not letters this time. The old merchant of death will take one enlightened step to arrange the benefits of his exit. Perhaps the foundation give prizes for the labors of peace.
Alfred Nobel was to survive in exile for 5 more years, mostly alone, and haunted by his past, his public reputation, the cruel criticisms of the press. But there in the sun of San Remo in Italy, he was to find an inspiring solution to the problem that must have been nagging his soul since the death of his brother Oscar all those years ago. In his will, he left his vast fortune as a legacy to the world, to found the 5 great Nobel Prizes, to honor achievement in the fields of physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. And in 1905, the most important award of them all, the Prize for Peace, was awarded to Bertha Baroness von Suttner, authoress of Lay Down Your Arms, president of the Permanent International Peace Bureau in Bern, Switzerland.